Hello and welcome. My name is Elizabeth and today we are continuing our series on the symbolism of the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, and we're going to be looking at the King of Swords. So if you're interested in knowing more about the deeper symbolism, particularly of the Royal Arcana, which behaves differently to the Major Arcana and the other pip cards of the Minor Arcana, then stick with me because we're going to talk about astrology. We're going to talk about timing. We're going to talk about the elements in particular, which are really interesting with the Royal Arcana. We're also going to look at the color symbolism and the actual images on this card, because everything on this card means something and contributes to the overall meaning of the card. So if you're wondering why I'm doing this with the Rider-Waite-Smith, it's because it is the most famous tarot deck in the world. It is the most accessible tarot deck to everyone in the world. And it really does form the basis of a lot of modern decks. So if you learn this deck, you learn a summary of all of the tarot decks that have gone before. And when I start my Tarot for Beginners course, I'll talk to you a lot more about that so that you get orientated to the tarot. And it really does help you. Once you learn this deck, you can read any tarot deck. So if you're interested in knowing more about this card, I'm going to spin the camera around and I do hope you'll stick with me. So let's go and look at the King of Swords. The King of Swords, Golden Dawn title, Prince of the Chariots of the Wind. So I think what we might do to start talking about the symbolism of this card, normally I would talk about the numerology, but to start with, but there is no numerology with Royal Arcana cards. So I think what I might do is have a look at the elemental correspondences, because they make the most sense to me in terms of helping you to remember the meaning of the card. So if we have a look at the other kings, let me have a look. So we've got King of Wands. King of Wands is fire. All kings are fire. And he is fire of fire. So fire stokes fire and enhances it. So this is a fiery king. Then we have King of Cups, fire and water. Again, King of Swords. Where is my King of Cups? Where is my King of Cups? Here he is. So fire and water. Water puts out fire. So again, these two disrupt one another. So here with this King of Cups, you've got a fiery emotion. You've got a disrupted emotion. And this is why the Queen, being water of water, is so important for that king. King of Swords, again, we've got fire of air. So we've got a fiery disposition with this particular king because air stokes fire. And then our last king is King of Pentacles. And the King of Pentacles, of course, is fire of earth. Now, earth, of course, puts out fire. You can throw some soil on top of fire and it will smother it. So this is a softer energy. It's a disrupted energy, but it's a softer, fiery energy because of the dampening effect of the suit of Pentacles, which is earth. So kings are fire. Their suit then determines the way that fire is expressed. So fire of fire, water of fire, air of fire, earth of fire. And it's really interesting. It just shifts the meaning of the card very slightly. And it's so easy to remember. When you're reading, you look at the card and you say, I know that's an air suit because it's swords, and I know all kings are fire. That's interesting. Air feeds fire. So this is a man who speaks sharply. and speaks with certainty and maybe doesn't stop to think about what he's saying or to moderate his thoughts. So there's your King of Swords. Now, I've done videos on all of these, so I'm not going to go into deep detail, otherwise we'll be here all day. But I am thinking I do want to do a video on the Royal Arcana because I think it would be very helpful for you in terms of understanding these cards better if we lay them all out. If I can get a miniature deck and we'll lay them all out and we'll look at the elements and how they all interact together. So if we look at, we'll have a quick look at the Kabbalistic symbolism again, and that gives you a little bit more in terms of understanding the card, and then we'll have a look at the astrology, and then we'll have a look at the symbolism on the card. So here on my tarot symbolism cheat sheet, which is available in my Etsy shop if you would like it, I will put a link to it down in the description box. These are my cheat sheets that I've made to help me in terms of being able to do a video for you to talk about the symbolism of each card. And there's one of these on each card in the set, including like a ready reckoner or the card at a glance. And then there's these sheets that go into more detail. So the Hebrew letter that is allocated to the King of Swords is Yod. This is everything and nothing. It's the everything and nothing letter, Hebrew letter. It's hard to describe. It's like Big Bang Theory. It's your understanding of the concept of the universal energy or God. It's the activating force behind the world. And I take this letter to be indicating this is like the king's mandate to rule the world, which back in the day they did. So it's a letter that sort of says, this is the king. He sits at the top of the universe and kind of, you know, tells us all what to do and we just bow and scrape, is kind of my thinking of this letter. But at the same time, it's a reminder to the king of the importance of his position and the importance of what he puts out there into the world. All the kings sit on Chokmah, or wisdom, or the Seraphot of wisdom, which is an orb that sits on the tree of life, unlike the major arcana where we talked about all the paths between the tree, channeling energy. And I will do some more on this when I do my Tarot for Beginners course. I'll talk all about Kabbalah and how it became involved in the tarot and all of that. And that will be a free course with a book that goes with it. Chokmah is wisdom. So this is the highest father or God or universal energy, dynamic, creative, positive energy, masculine energy, intuition, and spontaneity. So again, this is masculine energy as opposed to the feminine energy of the queens. So this is why we have a queen and a king and each balance the other out. Again, classical element, fire of air. Kings are fire, the suit is air. The traditional timing for the suit of swords is autumn. So if the king turns up in a timing placement, have a think about that in terms of being like a ready reckoner for timing if you want to do a little bit of work with timing, or you can be more exact and you can use the Golden Dawn timing with the decans. And in this particular case, the king rules May 11 to June 10. So third decan of Taurus through to second decan of Gemini. And I will show you on these fabulous cheat sheets. So if we have a look here, King of Swords, and you can see here he's going from Taurus through into Gemini. And I've got dates here, May 11 to June 10. So everything you need to know about the timing that's on this astrological wheel is on this chart. Now, the astrological wheel is the placement of the cards on the astrological wheel. Now, did I make this up? No, I didn't. It comes from the book T, which was the book that was written by McGregor Mathers, and there were some other people too, and they escaped my mind. I will make sure when I do my Tarot for Beginners course that I tell you all of that stuff and try and imprint it in my brain too so I don't forget. But the cards placed on here are literally placed on here based on the information from the Golden Dawn. This is not just pulled out of my head like some tarot teachers out there who will remain nameless. So this is the astrological wheel. We move Widdershins around the wheel. We are looking for Taurus, which is... I've got to find the sign for Taurus. Where are we? Down here, I thought. Where are we? Here we are. King of Swords. And he's moving from Taurus into Gemini. Here at the bottom of the wheel. Moving around, Widdershins around the wheel, pulling Taurus across into Gemini. So that's your timing in terms of the astrological timing. If we look at the symbolism on the card, and this is another card with lovely symbolism, very reminiscent of the Queen of Swords in terms of the butterflies and the cherubs and things like that. So the King's is sitting front on. His legs are a little bit apart. That's always a sign of somebody sitting in their personal power. And he's facing us with the confidence of a king, holding up his sword. He wears a crown of butterflies. You can see here the butterfly wings, and there's a little cherub in the center. So the butterflies and the cherub symbolize childlike innocence and lightness. Of course, he's the King of Swords, and swords are air, but also the ability to have a softness in harsh decisions. He holds his sword forward and upward, suggesting clarity of thought and words. The King's head is above the clouds, again, like the Queen of Swords, showing clarity of thought. And of course, his throne goes on past the top of the card. And this is exaggerating this idea of connecting with heaven and earth, but also that his throne is right up there in the clear sky, showing his clarity of thought and action. The two birds here are symbolic of ideas and having a bird's eye view of the world, because giving this idea that he's up high, a bit like the Queen. I'll actually dig out the Queen of Swords again and show her to you, just so you can see the parallels in this card. Where is she? Here she is. Here she is. So you can see again, she appears to be sitting up high with the clouds sort of lower. And you can see the patterns on the throne are very similar with the moons and the butterflies, that sort of symbolism. So the red symbolism, he has a red cape, and that gives him a little bit more passion than the Queen. She's a softer energy than he is. Again, the blue symbolism is clarity of thought and emotion, wanting to get to the heart of the matter, and speaking with clarity and directness. Again, he has a blue tunic on, which is reminding him and reminding us that he is still a king of emotion. His throne, his grey throne, is carved with butterflies, and there's a dancing woman also on his throne as well, suggesting lightness, femininity, happiness. The two crescent moons indicate the cycles of life and feminine energy. I talked about the throne extending above the top of the card, this idea of the authority of heaven and earth. Again, grey clouds can symbolize confusion, but you can see here, he's sitting above the confusion of the world. He is giving clarity of thought, clarity of action in his way in the world. So remembering that this is a calm action, remembering that this is fire of air. So we're looking at a king where we've got a little bit of stoking of the energy, because we know that fire and air feeds fire. It is part of the fuel that makes it burn. So we know that there'll be a little bit more fiery energy with this king than there will be with this queen, who is water of air. So that's my outline of the King of Swords. I do hope that's been helpful to you. If you love my work, please make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.